Hey there, Trevor here from Double Bill Movies. Okay, well I just got finished watching this film and it is Men Behind the Sun 731. And basically it's about what they call a squadron for some reason. I thought squadrons were only really to do with the Air Force, but no, it's a squadron. And basically they were doing experiments on people. They were trying to create chemical weapons. It's directed by Tun Fai Mao. I do hope that's the correct way to pronounce his name. Sadly, he passed away in 2019. There is an interview on the disc, and I did watch it. And I'm glad I did, because it actually helped me understand a little bit more about the film. I've got some pictures to show you, no comparison or anything, because this is just Blu-ray. I don't have a 4K, and this is the first time I've ever owned the film. The quality of the picture is very poor to start with. It's a 4K restoration from the original 35mm negatives, according to the back here. But the first reel must have been very poor film stock, because then suddenly the film image gets much better and you think, okay, that's good. So different film stock, different reel. I know for a fact actually, because I can tell, one, by looking at it, but two, also by what happens at the end, and I'll show you a picture later. They've seemed to have done a bit of a teal push to kind of help give the colours a certain look, and I don't know why they did that, because actually I think it ruined the film, and there's some shots it shows up really badly. Yes, as I said, it's quite an horrific film to watch. It's quite graphic in places. There is a mixture of obviously cruelty to humans, but there's actually a little bit of cruelty to animals. And during the interview that I watched at the end, the director said that as people were watching the film, some people were seemingly concerned about the animals, and rightly so, but they didn't sort of mention the human side of things. So yeah, sometimes you've got to be careful. Yes, it's correct to care for the animals, and there is a cat in the film that appears to be in trouble, but actually what he explained was they just put honey on him, so the rats that appear to be attacking the cat aren't actually. They're just eating the honey, and you can see that although it's covered in red or supposed to be blood and everything, the cat is not injured at all. And they just said they let it rest because it was really tired after the shooting, and it was fine. It was perfectly okay. Yes, some of the rats, they did get they were a bit worse for wear after certain filming scenes, but nonetheless, this is about the humans really. And what they suffered, and they did things like frostbite testing, and then they not only did they put her out in the cold in the outside, pouring water all over her, they then put her in ultra cold water, and as you see here, and showed what happens then. And you know, I could have shown a really more graphic picture, but I thought I'd just show the start of it. Because, you know, I want you to sort of watch this and experience it for yourself. I don't need to show you everything, but yeah, there's a scene where they need a young healthy body, because they want various body parts, the heart, the liver, and this and the other. And the young recruits, because it's obviously near the end of the war, it's 1945, so they're training these young cadets to be sort of the next soldiers, the next guys doing the experiments in this, I don't know if you want to call it a camp or facility, let's put it that way. And they see this mute kid out when they're doing their training out on the lake, the frozen lake, and they sort of kind of make friends with him in a way. One of them does anyway. They're asked, can they find a young lad, can you go and get him? And because the young cadet is sort of a bit innocent, he doesn't quite understand why the little friend that he's made, so he's supposed to be Japanese, but the little friend is a Chinese mute boy, because obviously they're in China. So this whole facility was in China, not Japan. And anyway, they go and get him, and you can only imagine that all the sorts of things are going to go on. They take him into the operating theatre, and he's looking at everything, and he's all like, "Oh wow, this is great." And then of course they put chloroform over his mouth, and then they just cut him up. But basically, what the director said was, to do that scene, they didn't have the budget to do any amazing prosthetics or whatever, so they actually asked the local police were there any bodies that they could use, and they couldn't find one, and then suddenly they did, and they asked permission from the family, could they use the body. The director explained to the family what it was going to be used for, and the family said, well, they're going to do an autopsy anyway because it was a sudden death, so yes, why not. The cadaver you see here being cut into is actually a real cadaver, because I was looking at it thinking, well, that's really good prosthetics or whatever, and then when you realise the rest of the scene, then you know that it had to be real. Yeah, so what else did they do? Well, there's obviously there was a gas chamber, and so it wasn't just Chinese people that were experimented on, because obviously China borders Russia. They had some Russian people there, and at one point in the film, the Russians declared war on China. So not China, the Japanese, basically. Also, there was a decompression chamber, so they wanted to see what happened to someone. You know, we're kind of compressed down on here. We've got gravity and everything on us, so basically they put them in a vacuum, and they wanted to see what happened. And yeah, it's pretty grim. I have to say, they do show you a fair bit, but yeah, so this guy doesn't end up as skinny as he is here, let's put it that way. Yes, the gas chamber, they put a mother and child in there, and you can see it's all acting, you can see it's all fake. There is a bird in there, as you can see here in the picture, and at some point the bird goes limp, so I imagine again that's more what's now perceived as animal cruelty. They may have just injected it, put it to sleep for a bit or something. I don't know what they did, but anyway. So yes, you've got all these different experiments going on, and they suddenly, this sort of commandant of the place, the guy who's been brought back, he's been away for a few years, and he suddenly stumbles across an idea, because they're sort of trying to find ways to deliver these chemical weapons, because they've got all these infected fleas. They're using Black Death, and they've tried to make it 60 times stronger, and all this, that, and the other. And actually, there's a caption at the end of the film that comes up and says there was an outbreak of the Black Death, because basically all these fleas that were heavily infected got released, got out somehow. So you know, that was a bit of an unfortunate situation, but if you play with chemical weapons, then that's the sort of thing that's going to happen, isn't it? But anyway, he stumbled across a way that he could think of delivering these weapons, because an explosive was kind of too much. They sort of tried that earlier on, but then they came up with these things, and earlier on he'd been throwing these very soft clay bowls and up into the rafters of the building they were in, and it was all sort of raining down on the soldiers, and he was explaining that, you know, there you go, that would infect all these different people if it touched you, sort of thing. So that's what these were for. These were going to be dropped, I guess, filled inside with things. And so yes, so the picture is not amazing. It does get better, obviously, as I said, and I kind of wish they hadn't put the blue teal push thing on there, because it kind of ruined it. As it's from a 4K scan, you never know, one day we might actually get a proper 4K of these. Now, what inspired me to watch it was I was listening to the album, I don't know if you know, a while ago, when I first got these, because there's 3 films. I was wearing a t-shirt of this album cover, and and I don't know if you can see, I don't know if that will focus. It says Unit 731, and when you look at the lyrics, it is literally about what they were doing here. So that was, for me, a very cool connection. One, I like World War II, two, I like death metal, obviously, and this is the same band. But yeah, then to finally find the film that the song was referencing, and as I said, there's two sequels, Men Behind the Sun 2 and 3. And the director said that he used to be asked about them. Oh yeah, so we've seen your sequels, and he's like, what sequels? I never made any other films. So anyway, other people have gone on to make more films, and he was actually quite pleased by this, because when it came to presenting the film, first he had to get permission from the Chinese government to make the film in the first place, and they show up on screen the actual document that was signed by the Chinese government, because what he persuaded them to understand was that, yes, at the time, I think this was in the 70s, China had a good relationship with Japan, because you don't want to mess that up. So he's just explained, well, friendship is friendship, history is history. I'm not talking about friendship, I'm talking about history. So that's how he got around that. And he said that when they showed it in Japan, there were these students, and they were like, oh, this is not real, we would never, you know, we're not like that, us Japanese aren't like that. Just happened to be standing next to him, because they'd come out of the woodwork by then, was one of the actual guards or guys from the facility, and said, sorry, yes, actually we did do that, it was real. So that was a good reason for watching the bonus material, because the shot at the beginning of the lads trying to give the group of lads trying to give the other guy rice, he said that you know, so that group of lads were Japanese, and even though they're in China, and I didn't quite fully understand that, because the subtitles are quite quick, and I got to the point in the film where I was having to pause and read, but no. So obviously the young lad that was eating quite happily by himself was a local Chinese guy. They were trying to feed him these rice things, which isn't, at the time, wasn't the normal food for them. So he was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want your Japanese food, and whatever. So yeah, that helped explain that. But like I said, very good film. I think Massacre Video have done a good job of these. So they got these lovely slip covers. So that's obviously the actual cover. I don't know if you can see that, probably not, but so there you go, there's the scene you just saw, her on the lake. But yeah, if you know, if you're wanting to explore the even darker side of World War II, then you know, this is a good film to start with. And the director said, you know, would be nice if people remade the films and did a better job, because he only had a budget of about the equivalent of $20,000, and he used all local Chinese people. So it was all these Chinese people being Japanese people, and this, that, and the other. And the building that they were in, the red brick building in the film, was actually the original offices, as you can see from the photo. And the locals, some of the older locals that were around at the time, were like, oh no, I knew they were coming back, but I didn't know when, sort of thing. So it was quite scary for them. But it was a school by then, so they just took all the school information down, like the name of the school and everything, and just put the Japanese flag above, and that kind of thing. So yeah, there's footage at the beginning, very sepia black and white footage of the remnants of the building, because they just realized that, well, they needed to destroy the facility because they don't want to get found out. They were trying to hide it all. and that kind of thing. So, and he said the scene at the end with all the rain, they basically did manage to hide most of what went on, but there was a little pamphlet or very thin book published in China at one point, and he managed to reference that. And then, as I said, when he actually met some of the people that were stationed there, I guess they, you know, they had a guilty conscience and they wanted to confess and everything. So yeah, they sort of come out the woodwork, having tried to hide it for years and decades and whatever. But then also, it turns out the commandant that I showed you a picture of earlier, he ended up at the front in the Korean War. And what do you know, suddenly the Koreans had these chemical weapons. So he managed to keep some data for himself. And they sort of imply that that's how he was obviously proud of what he was doing, as you kind of are when you do these things. But nonetheless, and here's the shot of it looking different. So this looks very green here, the lights and whatever. But once the credits start to appear, then all that green goes away, and it's the natural colour. You look at the guys on the platform in the distance. There's more brightness there. Yes, it's still fuzzy, it's still out of focus, but to my eyes on screen there was more detail and everything. So if there ever is a 4K, the colour palette won't look anything like it does here. Yeah, they've kind of ruined it, unfortunately, whoever decided to do this teal push. But anyway, so that is Men Behind the Sun from Massacre Video, Unit 731. And at some point I'll get around to watching the other two. Maybe I can do a review of those as well. Anyway, I hope you like that. Let me know if you've seen it. Let me know if it's the sort of thing you might check out, and give us a thumbs up. And until the next video, take it easy.